So we are in our second meditation. The first meditation was the challenges of Jesus before His public ministry. So until the temptation in the desert. Now after that, everything is public ministry. So this second meditation is the challenges of Jesus leading to His Paschal Mystery, leading to His passion, death, and resurrection. So here, we have to begin with the idea that Jesus, true God and true man, now in public ministry, will have to face the world as is. The world in sin. Will have to face also even good people, His own friends, the apostles, with many tendencies. The tendency to exalt themselves, the tendency to inclination to, be rebellious or rivalry of each other. All of that. The first challenge of Jesus in this second meditation is the agony in the Garden of Gethsemane. So, as Jesus had all of the public ministry, he had contact with people, etc. And especially the leaders having antagony with him to the end, in a climactic way. And so after the Last Supper, we know Jesus was with Peter, James, and John. They went a little bit farther from the group in the Garden of Gethsemane to pray. So here we have to consider in this agony of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, the human will in relation to the divine will. Jesus, true God and true man, has the human nature, with the human nature has the human will. And so, what is this about in the human will? The human will trying to accept the will of God. Jesus said, Father, if it can be possible, take this cup of suffering, be away, be taken. But not my will, but your will be done. So what is the agony here? The agony in the human will, in the human nature, Jesus felt a great tug in the human will. Why? Because the human will, from the very dawn of creation until that time and beyond, the human will has been inclined to disobey. And disobey and disobey. Imagine how many billion or millions of people already from the time of creation until Christ's time and until our time that Jesus is going to save in the human will, the disobedience. Disobedience after disobedience, main disobedience, it has been canalized in the human heart. And so it is easier to disobey rather than to obey. And we know that. Even if we are going to obey, we are already even going to argue and to argue, to escape. But, okay, we obey, but not after doing all the arguments. It is very hard to obey. Jesus felt this in his human nature. And that is why Jesus has to save that. Jesus also felt in his human nature the human will, having been inclined to mediocrity, to complacency, to being distracted. So it has been weakened so much. No more spiritual muscles. Very weak moral fibers. And so, in the human heart, in the human will, very weak to do God's will. That is why Jesus himself said during the agony in Gethsemane to Peter and the apostles who were sleeping, the spirit is willing but the body is weak, the flesh is weak. So the body is asked, therefore, to have spiritual muscles in order that it will conform to the Spirit. That's the weight that Jesus agonized. And so, men of today, we have also to consider now our own human will in relation to God's will. We must therefore more and more cultivate obedience rather than disobedience. We therefore have to cast out in us any form of mediocrity and laxity in our spiritual life. Otherwise, we will not form spiritual muscles and moral fibers, because when we are so weak, even if we are willing, but because we are very weak, we will not be inclined to do. God is calling us. But then because we are very weak, we will say, later, Lord, later. And the later is never done. Men of today, tame your will. Let us have command over our will so that our will can be attuned to the will of God. The first mission is obedience. This is our first mission. Why? Because the tendency in our time is to separate my life with the church, my life with the relationship with Jesus is different from my life with the work, my life with my recreation, my life with my going for vacation. I go for vacation, so I am in vacation. I don't have the obligation to pray because I am in vacation. I don't have the obligation to go to church because I am in vacation. Pay attention, you might go shipwrecked of the faith. There is no dichotomy between our personal life and our life with God. Because our personal life is the very ground where we are going to practice our life with God. And that is why Jesus agonized for that. And we are being told now to learn this lesson. We have to be strong in obedience. We have to have command over our wants, over our will. We therefore always have to focus on the will of God. Jesus said, "Not my will, but your will be done." This is also our attitude. And it is not automatic that we'll incline right away to God's will. That is why there is so much self-disciplining to happen. Self-discipline. Men of today, our tendency by nature, men, we are always the one to have command. But many times, the one that we do not have command to is ourselves. And that is why this is the one that we have to learn from Jesus Christ. People who are actually courageous are those who are courageous enough to have command over themselves. People who are actually powerful are those actually who are self-disciplined. The sixth challenge. Jesus was brought to court. People rejected him as their king. They shouted, "Crucify him." He was mocked. He was humiliated. He was scourged. He was judged to die. In the Gospels, you can see that, the narrative of the Passion. So, what are we going to consider here? Jesus brought to public humiliation. Jesus brought to public testimony. But all of this, he actually carried with honor, with dignity. In the narrative of the Passion, in public, this is actually what is happening. And this is what is salvific of this event. The innocent is being accused by the guilty. The righteous one is being humiliated by the unrighteous. The truth himself is being silenced by lies. Do you get the picture? And this is what happens also in our world today. In your faith, my faith. In your testimony of your faith, and in the testimony of my faith. In the world today, especially in the society we live in, more and more we are being bombarded. Your faith is a personal matter. So, if you would like to pray outside, no, don't pray outside. Put it inside. You would like to talk about God? No, don't talk about God here. Bring that to your personal life. God is being taken out from the equation of human activity in public affairs. The Catholic Christian faith, the Catholic Church, in all our organizations, that is one of our fight. To bring the faith into the public arena and let the faith influence our decision makings. Let the faith influence our personal decisions as well as our public decisions. We are all citizens of our faith. We are also citizens of our country. Do you know where is the citizen of the country in your body? Who is the American here and who is the Christian? Can you identify in yourself who is the citizen of this country and who is the person of faith? You cannot dichotomize, right? You cannot, okay, my right side is my going to God. My left side is the only one that is American. You cannot. And that is why everything that we are belong to God. And that is why when we go to our public life, we have the obligation to live the faith. We have the obligation to do as our faith teaches. And Jesus taught us to witness the faith in public life. And therefore to us men of today, men of faith, be confident in witnessing the faith. Be confident that Jesus is with you, with us, whenever we go to the public. When we deny Him in public, we deny Him actually in public because He is present. He is there. No wonder, remember Jesus said that in the gospel, one of the passages, He said, if you will deny me before others, I will deny you before the Father and the angels in heaven. Remember that. Let us ask ourselves, situational, your life, my life, but your life especially, because this question says, what are the things that you are ashamed of in your married life? You have to evangelize that. What are the things that you are ashamed of in your family life that you are not doing in relation to faith? Now, all of us, what are the things that we are ashamed of in the personal way that you and I are ashamed of about our faith in public life? Is there something that you are ashamed of your faith to talk about in public? I know you and I can say, Father, actually there is nothing that I am ashamed of my faith. I just don't want to talk about it. Whenever there are times that I would have talked about them, because I don't want my friends to ostracize me. I don't want my friends to say, oh, maybe you are too much. The point here is, if there are occasions that something will come up and there is a chance to talk about the perspective of faith, you and I ought to talk about faith. We will not say, this is how we are going to approach it. We will not say that, hey, you are all wrong. No. In evangelization, all we have to do is say, you know, the faith perspective or the Christian faith perspective is this. One point, second point. And then, period, this is the perspective. Now, what is the choice? It's you and I will choose. You see? Simple as that. This is what we are being actually taught about. Then say it. The shortest way possible. And then say period. Practice the faith publicly. Now, another situation. What are the actions of the faith, of our faith, that you are doing now, that you are building your faith? Of course, the spiritual retreat is one of those that we do to build our faith. What other things that you do in your personal life that will build your faith so that your faith can be strong enough to witness in public arena? Do you study? Do you read the Bible? Do you seek counsel? Do you seek counsel, advice? Do you talk to your wife or with your wife about faith? Do you talk about faith with your children at home? Maybe these are the things you can consider. During this Lenten season, this is a good chance to know about that. Because Father Eddie and Father Jopel is not with you in your workplace. Who is going to evangelize the workplace? It's you. Who is going to evangelize the kids' soccer game or baseball game? Who is going to go there? It's you. Maybe before letting your child go or grandchild go, hey, granddaughter, grandson, come. Let us pray first. In the Father and of the Son. You pray together first, and then you go. Isn't it that would be powerful to your child? And then parents will see you praying together, and they will notice that. Would it be already a public witnessing of the faith? You are not telling everybody to pray, but action speaks louder than words. Public witnessing of the faith. And many times, that was the challenge of Jesus, but He perfected it in order to save our own witnessing. Now is our time to do our public witnessing of the faith in many forms and in many circumstances. Let us go to the third, or the number 7 challenge of Jesus Christ. Jesus carried the cross to Calvary. In the narrative it says, so they took Jesus, and carrying the cross himself, he went out to what was called the place of the skull, in Hebrew, Golgotha. So Jesus carried the cross. Now here, we have to consider two things. There is the physical burden of the wood, because the wood was real wood. Physical burden. And there is also the spiritual, moral burden. Okay? So in the physical burden, there is really, Jesus was carrying it, was doing it. So there is a bodily effort being done. You have to pay attention to that. Why? Because in all of our living of the faith, we live the faith by also making a bodily effort. It's very good to sleep, but it is time to go to Mass. Oh, a little bit more, 5 minutes more. There is a body to be waking up. And that is why maybe 1 minute more. And so we arrive at the church late. Or maybe at the neck of time. And so we are running down. not good. You and I, because you know your life, I know my life, you know how to best live your faith. Do what you can in the best way possible to truly maximize, underline that word, the expression and the living of your faith. And that is why the burden of carrying the weight of the cross is also carrying it, our expected in living the faith, our own body. This Sunday, breakfast. To go there and to prepare and to clean and to usher people and to smile, that's body. And you have to do that. To other men who are not in the service ministry of Knights of Columbus, it's the same. It's the same. You pray the rosary at home. Father, we don't pray at home. That's why maybe today begin. Pray the rosary at home. How are you going to do? To stop and to pray the rosary is also body. We use our fingers. Our fingers now, good to use to text message. But it can be used also to pray the rosary. Many times, very good to use the remote control. Oh, no more. We say, Alexia, put into that channel. No more. But maybe we can say with our rosary, Lord, you talk to the Lord. The body. We have the burden of the body. The burden to let the body conform to the soul. Jesus carried the weight of the cross, the physical burden. Now the moral burden, the spiritual burden, the sin was enormous. Just think of it, playfully. How many people Jesus was saving? Maybe during the time, from the time of creation until his time. How many? Maybe already about many billion. Now, since his salvation was effective also for the coming generations, so remember, now we are about 5-6 billion. And remember how many sins committed by 6 billion people. The weight of sin. Moral burden, spiritual burden. And that's how he carried it. And that is why here we have to think. God is revealing that he is going into the human experience of all of this so that he can save us all. But it is up to us. We are being given, here underlined in the Passion narrative, he himself carrying the cross himself. He will to carry the cross. Therefore, there is the obligation for you and I to use our will. Do you want to be saved? We have to will to be saved. Otherwise, we will not be saved. We have to will to grow in spiritual life. Otherwise, we will not grow. The saying, Jesus said, unless the grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains just a grain of wheat. We are all grains of wheat. If we do not will to die, we remain just a grain of wheat. We have to will to carry the burden. And that is why Jesus did that. And so for us, men of faith, men of today, this is the lesson. Never hesitate or be stingy in giving one's effort or efforts in spiritual life. Never hesitate to give your effort in your spiritual journey. Make an effort to acquire and build your virtues